Howdy, y'all. Welcome to the actual episode 15 of I'm So Beastly. I'm your host, Mr. Richard. Last episode, I said it was episode 14 or 15, and I capped it off by saying episode 15 in the end. Turns out this is actually episode 15. That was episode 14. Um, not a huge mistake, but hey, it is what it is. So this episode is inspired by an idea I had based on some things I'd seen, maybe in a book I'm reading. I don't exactly know where this idea came to me, but the idea that I had for this episode, really for the book I wanted to write, one of the books I wanted to write, was about source credibility, source validity, right? And this is a huge, I would say, an epidemic that we have, definitely in today's day and age with the internet and the ease of, content creation. But uh, it's been a theme for, centuries, honestly, is source validity, right? Where does this information come from that we are being taught, that we are being told is fact, right? Who writes these history books? Who writes history? How can we make for certain that history that we have been learning is true? Or really, in any information that we're learning is true, right? And even if it comes from trusted sources or perceived trusted sources based on the reputation they've built for themselves over years, over decades, um, doesn't necessarily mean it's true information. It just means it has become a perceived trusted source. And now I think with the onset of the internet over the past, 2.5 decades, 3 decades, give or take, somewhere around there, I think people have been starting to see that their sources cannot be trusted as well as they used to be or as well as they thought they used to be. Um, everything comes with an opinion now. It's not necessarily just fact-based, which is unfortunate. There's really nothing out there that's simply facts. All right, everything has to have an opinion, right? And I mean, it is what it is. I mean, everything has become entertainment now. It's all about viewership. It's not about knowledge. It's not about understanding. It's not about truth anymore. It's about clicks. It's about viewership. It's about attention. And why is that? Because attention is currency, right? And those who have it can do anything they want. And that is a true statement. I had an entire podcast episode on that a couple ago, episode 13. Check it out. Dives a little bit deeper. But that's all it is about is attention, right? Who can get the most attention? Who can get the highest ratings? Who can make the most money? News stations don't tell the news anymore. They're all about opinions. They're all about, giving what they think, but their thoughts are always one-sided. It's never like, oh, this is the story, the true story. These are all the facts, and then this is what I think. It's like, no, these are partially the facts because they back up my side, my opinions, right? They don't tell the whole story. And I know I have done an episode, I think, on this, at least maybe on a different podcast. Maybe I did it earlier on this one. I'm not real sure, but I at one point saw, and this is very true to today, and honestly to all of history, at least with the news. Um, there was a newspaper, I wouldn't say comic, I guess, but illustration, and it was, maybe it was online. I don't know. Anyway, it's an illustration, and it was there were three pictures, and the first picture was uh, let's say Middle Eastern on his knees, and it showed a military man with a gun pointed at his head. Okay, that was the first picture. The second picture showed a Middle Eastern man on his knees with the military man handing him a canteen of water. Okay. The third picture showed the Middle Eastern man on his knees with the military man pointing the gun at the guy's head, and on the other side, the military man handing him a canteen of water. Right? The point of this, political cartoon, we'll call it, I think that's what it is actually called, was to show that based on what you're shown, you can immediately have an opinion on something. Based on what you're shown, right? You can immediately, start to think, oh, that's terrible. I can't believe they had their gun in his hands, screw the military, this and that. Or if you're on the other side, you'll say, oh, heck yeah, he's got a gun to his head. Yeah, that's the way. And vice versa with the water. I can't believe he's giving him water. What? That's ridiculous. Then the other guy, oh, yeah, of course he's giving him water. It's good. It's like good. But so then it sparks, reactions from both sides, the reactions that they're aiming for, right? And it's going to show you what it wants to push the agenda, but no one's going to show you that third picture, right? They're not going to show you, and if they do, it's going to be so short and just like hard to actually catch. It'll be something in passing. It won't be something that they harp on, like they harp on the one sides or the opinions, right? They may tell the truth, but they don't actually tell the truth, you know? And so then that becomes like, it becomes a virus if you're stuck watching if you're stuck watching one news station, right? Regardless of the side, it doesn't really matter. Politics is a joke. It doesn't matter what you're watching. Either way, right? Either way, you're infected with the virus if you watch one side, compared to the other. If you're going to watch the news, I don't watch the news, right? I think it's basically a bunch of junk, right? I have no idea what's going on in society. I have basically no idea outside of my tiny little sphere because it doesn't really matter, right? It's not actually affecting me. And the more I let it into my mind, the more it's going to affect me. But there's no point. It doesn't need to affect me, right? So I just don't listen to it. I drown it out. I get rid of the distractions. I get away from the noise. I don't let it get to me. I don't follow it. I know the major things that happen because people talk about it and I hear it, but I have no clue what's going on really. Um, but you need to watch both sides if you're going to watch it, right? You need to honestly hear it from both sides and then look up the information for yourself. Actually read stories. Don't just read clickbait titles, right? Question everything. Everything you hear, you should look it up for yourself. Always do your own research on everything, especially if you're getting your information from the TV news, even the radio news. I mean, there's really nothing that's that's going to be honest. I mean, you're better off getting your news from a foreign news station that has, you know, no dog in the fight, as they say, right? You're better off getting it from satire shows that rip on both sides because at least they're going to talk about both sides in the same fashion, right? The only way to get true news, or at least close to true news, is anything neutral. It's never going to be from one side or the other. It's not the case, right? Those sources cannot be trusted anymore. So the validity, they've lost their credibility because they've lied so much and they've hidden truths and they focus on the wrong things, right? For instance, and like I said, I'm not political at all, and I'm sure the other side did something like this as well. This is just what I saw, right? Based on um, where I was at the time watching a presidential debate when this came on, because the station we were watching, it just came in the best. I don't care either way, but I want to say we were watching it on CNN. And at the end of the presidential debate, and this was the one where right before Biden dropped out of the race. right? And obviously, I know there's more to it. I know this has nothing to do with it. My point is just talking about credibility of the news, of the sources. After that debate, the panel that was talking about it, that was discussing it, analyzing it, a big topic of discussion that they had, right? And mind you, Biden was president at this time. A big thing they said was, what does this do for the Democratic Party? Right? If Biden is like this, if he's this out of it, what does this tell us about the Democratic Party? How deep in trouble is the Democratic Party? Well, the issue with that is they're focused on one side, right? They're talking about this man who represents the Democratic Party of the United States, but both parties are really pointless, honestly, because there's so much that goes on behind the scenes that completely make the party system irrelevant, but it's whatever. It's a show. The whole thing's a show, literal play. But it's all professional wrestling. And it's the entire world is professional wrestling. Wrestling's just now become like more honest about it now. Um, so the credibility that was lost was because yes, Biden made the Democratic Party look bad at that time. However, he was currently the president of the United States. So that means nothing. That's irrelevant for the Democratic Party. He was president of the United States, right? So an entire nation. So he was president of everybody. If he's like that at a debate with 2 years to go in his presidency, don't we think that that's a red flag for the country in itself? Not just the party, but for the actual country, right? And that is the biggest issue. These sources, they care about their side. They don't care about the country in general. And granted, like I said, it doesn't matter who wins. It doesn't matter who's in president. It's predetermined. It's already decided. The people have no actual say, right? And I kind of touch on this in my episode on democracy, right? But that right there, that if there was any credibility of that source remaining for me, and mind you, I don't think the other side has much credibility either. But if there was any, thread of credibility remaining in that source, it was lost completely with that one statement. And that's just modern politics, right? It comes from every angle. But that's modern politics right now. None of the sources can be trusted. Okay? Which takes you back if that's just that's what we see. That's not even what is, done in quote unquote the shadows, right? That's not even the writing of the books. No one really, I mean, some do. I mean, I guess I am, but we don't really question where the information in these history books comes from, right? It's as a whole, as a mass, we don't question it. We just allow it to happen. We just like, oh yeah, it's in this history book. It must be true. I mean, but who writes these history books? How is history written? I mean, think about it. If something happens, right? And let's say it's this nation, they're just chilling. They're doing their thing. They're not harming anybody, and they're just, farming, they're protecting their lands, they're building up their castle, they're thriving. They're just like, yeah, we're just chilling. We're having a good time on the coast here. We're just doing our thing, right? And then all of a sudden this other nation, right? This other kingdom comes in and just wipes them out. Just obliterates them. They're just gone. They're off the face of this earth, right? And they were just chilling. They didn't do harm to anybody. They're just there. They're just there, right? And then this other nation, this other kingdom comes in, and we have some maybe some scraps of written history there in the castle. They like to document their daily life. They like to document. They've been documenting for hundreds of years in this one in the middle of nowhere coast no one's been to, like whatever. They're just out there. They've been documenting for years, and they just get wiped out by this other kingdom. And this other kingdom comes in and they just raid the castle. They take it over, They find every piece of paper they find, they burn it, it's gone. It's completely out of history forever. And they just come in and they write it up and they're like, yeah, this other nation, they came and attacked us. They sent us a letter of war, and so we of course we came back and we defended ourselves and thank goodness we were well trained and had enough troops and we were able to go in there and defend ourselves relatively unscathed. And like, yeah, of course we had to do it at their castle, but it was like they came to us and we did it, kind of preemptively, but they were on us like, so we had to defend ourselves. We had to attack them to defend ourselves. Shoot. Or they could just say, well, we they kidnapped our leader. They kidnapped so the king could say, "Oh yeah, they came in there in the middle of the night and kidnapped my son, the prince. So of course we had to go in there and rescue him, and it was a bloodbath, and they had no survivors, but we got out of there. We did our thing." And so all of a sudden, and then this gets passed down year after year, generation after generation. And so this kingdom who goes in there and completely obliterates this other, pacifist kingdom for the sake of getting their land, getting their supplies, getting they're taking their money for the sake of that. But in the history books, it's like, oh yeah, this Kingdom B, they were just retrieving their prince. They were saving saving the life of the king's son. And so this other bad kingdom, they had it coming. They deserved everything they got since they kidnapped the prince. Well, that just flat out wasn't true. How do we verify that if this, vicious kingdom comes in and just wipes out this pacifist kingdom? Well, who's going to look good in history? Well, of course, the vicious kingdom is because they're the ones that are writing the history that gets passed down, right? So it's what is in these books. History is very difficult to pin down because you need written accounts. So like in this, well, for instance, in this book I'm reading, Holy Blood, Holy Grail, I mentioned it in the previous episode, and I will also have the link to that book in this description. It's very fascinating. It's a nonfiction book. It talks about the Knights Templar. It talks about the Merovingian dynasty. It talks about uh, Rennes-le-Château, uh, place in France. A lot of it happens in France and Germany, old timey. I mean, hundreds of years ago. And I'm roughly halfway through it right now. But uh, but anyway, so it talks about the Dark Ages, and essentially, it's not the Dark Ages were not dark by accident. They didn't just stop taking notes. It was dark because they burned the notes, or they got rid of the notes that told the history of that time because they were trying to hide something. Okay, so there's not written history of that time because they were hiding something. All right. They wiped out an entire, era of existence because they were hiding something. If they can do that, then, every winner of everything, every invader, every anything, unless there are some survivors who somehow get out and write about it, history is written by the winners. Almost every source needs to be, you know, validated. Some have definitely been validated. There's no doubt about it. And we found, old scrolls, old documents, written that have been well preserved that do have these things. They pop up here and there. I mean, of course, there's forgeries. Of course, there's um, fake history. But then again, you know, typically speaking, it's still hard to see what part of history is actually true because once again, people are not always honest. They're not always going to tell the truth. I mean, who's to say that what they're writing, what we're reading is a complete fallacy, right? That, I mean, sometimes history is true, but then like maybe the what is true, but the why is not always there, or the why is completely um falsified. Right? So it's the point is we can't just take everything we read, regardless of the the topic, especially on the internet. You can't believe everything you read. Even in books, you have to verify sources, right? So that's why the more sources someone has for their information is typically going to be best, right? So if there's a book that has one source, a nonfiction book has one source, you know, typically it's not going to be very reliable. If it has 1,000 sources, it pulled its information from, 1,000 different authors, 1,000 different places. That book is probably going to be more reliable, provided all the information matches up, right? Granted, it's honestly a never-ending cycle. There are ways to find, full verification on sources, and historical reference, but the farther back you go, the more murky it gets and the harder it is to find. And honestly, the harder the more that the more it's hidden, right? So it's source verification is very important, and once again comes back to the idea of questioning everything, experiencing things for yourself, right? No one's life should be dictated by something they read and haven't verified, right? Our thoughts shouldn't be completely controlled by what someone says in a book or what someone says on TV unless we have absolutely verified that what they're saying is total fact and that we completely, you know, that it follows along with the morals that we've set for ourselves, right? I mean, obviously, like when this podcast is eventually going to blow up and get huge and have, the million followers and, get thousands of views every episode, million plus views every episode. It's gonna happen, right? It's on its way. And then at that time, on my way to, the million followers, I'm going to have um, products reach out to me to do product placement. But I have no interest, not a single interest in adding any ads on here for products that I don't believe in for the sake of money. Money's just not that important, right? We need it, but in the grand scheme, it's not the end goal, right? The end goal is to gain knowledge and experience everything we can in this world. Yes, the more money you have, the more you can experience because the more free time you'll have and the more resources you'll have to, make those experiences happen. Yes, I get that. I get that, but it's not worth, selling myself for, some money. So I will promote products when when this podcast becomes huge, and it will. It's on its way. I already know it is. When that happens, yes, I will promote products, but only the ones I believe in, only the ones that I would use myself or that I know come from a good place and they're promoting a good message. They're promoting love, positivity, and knowledge. Any of those things, right? And they, fall in line with my purpose, then yeah, I'll promote them, right? But I basically I need to trust the source. I need to look into the source. I need to trust the source, right? I don't honestly don't remember why I went down that tangent. I suppose maybe it was relevant, maybe it wasn't. I completely forgot where my track was when I started. I got off track. All right. Anyway, the point is don't just believe sources because they're out there, right? Look into it yourself. Do your own research. Always do your own research. We need to verify all the sources. Okay. I, at some point, when I, you know, am through, not through as in a bad thing, but once I'm good with my nonfiction books and my knowledge, I will get back into the fiction game. Um, and maybe, maybe I'll do the source validity fiction book that I was planning that, inspired this episode. But, we'll see. We'll see where we go. Right now we're busy learning Greek and doing some random translations to get good on it. Honestly, Greek is a super fascinating language. I think it's fun. So I thoroughly enjoy it. Plus, I have I know why I'm learning it. I have a reason to learn it. I have a purpose to learn it. So it makes it makes it that much better. But I'm actually gonna hop off this and go do some Greek translations, or perhaps I'll read Holy Blood, Holy Grail. I don't know. I guess we'll see. Um, we'll see what happens when we hop off. But this has been the real episode 15. Um, my books, once again, are in the description. Winston Feathersby, I'll let you know how it goes, and Dream Journal. I've also got Holy Blood, Holy Grail description, link in the description. Okay. And once again, this episode, as of the recording, 27 subscribers on YouTube, 10 followers on Spotify. 37 out of a million. Long way to go, but we're growing. We're getting there. And man, I can feel it. It's about to burst. We're about to get huge. All right. We got 119 episodes left until we reach 1 million. Um, but it's coming. We're on the cusp of absolutely getting massive. And I am glad that you're going to be here with us. Um, so, I'm so beastly. You are so beastly. We are so beastly.